I'm absolutely thrilled, again, just to have the chance to talk about some of these things that are just so important to me personally, but also I do think to the life of the church, and just like what it actually means to lean into the church as a family, which is really going to be the highlight of what I talk about this early part of the day. So, but before I do that, I want to just invite you for just a moment to realize that you are here right now, ultimately, because there were people who loved you. You know, like none of us would be in this room had we not had people that loved us and believed in us and supported us. Like these people that really, in some sense, loved us into being. And what I would like to invite you to do, just for the next 10 seconds, is just to call to mind the face of one of those people who believed in you, who loved you, and really brought you into being as the person that you are. Just for 10 seconds. Okay, I just want to, just for a moment, would anyone like to share just kind of what you're noticing happening in your body as you recall this person? Like, how do you feel? What sensations do you notice? Yeah, Dean. Peace. Okay, thank you. Familiarity. Uh-huh. Gratitude. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are things that happen. Anyone feel sort of like sometimes this can happen where we get like a little welling of tears in the eyes as we think about these people. Maybe like a flushing and like right through the center of our body. Maybe kind of like that, when you watch those videos of like military parents coming home and like surprising their kids at school, and like you are like doing that kind of, that tightening that happens here. Anyone have that kind of sensation happen in your body as you thought about these people? Like a flooding of warmth? I mean, this is like what's so beautiful to me is the way that we are created, is that we actually are created and we are wired for this connection. And like that's what you're experiencing. This is your like connection system coming online, right? And this is one of the things that is just so most deeply human about us. And I think that this is what we can tap into in an age of despair. So once upon a time, I was born into this world. And I was born into this world as an only child. Don't judge me. It's just the way things were. I have no siblings whatsoever. And my parents actually split when I was 5 years old. And so I had to spend the early part of my, my life going back and forth between these houses. And even when both of my parents remarried, my bonus parents didn't have any kids. So I was doing all of this all by myself, right? I was just totally alone. And so no matter where I went, I kind of felt super out of place, right? Because like the stuff that my mom, like that was like okay at my mom's house was like absolutely not welcome by my dad. And the stuff that like the parts of me that my dad really liked were things that my mom absolutely did not want to see. So I was like really torn and having to like navigate this world kind of all on my own. And so for me, the notion of family was a really rough one. It didn't really make sense to me. Because in my mind, you just go through life alone and you have to figure it out on your own. This is kind of how you do it, right? Like that's what my early lessons in life were. But when I was 16, I ended up developing sort of this like mentor-mentee relationship with my English teacher in high school, my junior year of high school. And I was going through just like a lot of kind of like weird, questions about like the evangelical Christianity that I was growing up in. And I went to him, and for some reason there was this relationship of trust. And I said, man, I don't think I believe any of this anymore. Like, this kind of seems bogus to me. And he was like, you know what? I actually don't believe it either. And I said, what? Really? And he was like, yeah, really. That's why I became Eastern Orthodox. And I was like, well, what's that? And he started just articulating to me some of the deepest realities that I kind of had been putting my finger to, like he was helping me understand that like the cross was more than just this like unfortunate but necessary step to make sure that you could get to heaven, and rather that it was evidence of a God who so deeply loved and identified with his creation that he wanted to suffer with it. And that to me was so compelling, right? A God who would come into the world and take all of human suffering into himself and let it do its absolute worst and then overcome it with life and with love. Like, what a cool, so that's a way better story than like, you failed the test and someone needs to be punished, so I'm going to punish my kid for it, right? That was a way better story to me. So I asked him if I could attend church with him one day. I was like, oh, cool, can I go with you? And he said, sure. So I went to church one Sunday morning with him when I was 16, and I walked in and just kind of like, was immediately struck by everything, just like everyone is, right? You have like the low hanging ceilings, at least in the church that I visited, and it had like recessed lighting. So like the incense was just like wafting through the air, and there was the kind of the strange music that I had never really heard before. And there was all of these faces all over the place on the wall. And I was just like, wow, this is beautiful. And I really had a sense that I had come home when I walked into church for the first time. But what really like sealed the deal for me was when I went to coffee hour. And one thing quickly became clear to me when I went to coffee hour at this church, that this was a family. That this is what family looks like, I was seeing, everyone was super interested in me, the adults, the kids, like they're like, who are you? Where are you coming from? Everyone came up to me and was just like wanting to show me stuff and tell me about things. Like I just felt like I was walking into someone's house. You ever go to someone's house and they have little kids? What do the little kids want to do when you come to their house for the first time? They want to show you their toys and their room. They're like, come see my room. Right? And like, I don't know why that is like the thing that like my kids love to do. And I'm like, don't show them your room. It's disgusting. Like it's a mess. Don't do that. But that was kind of like how it felt. Like everyone wanted to show me their room. And it was so cool. And as I watched how these people interacted, I like for months couldn't tell whose kids were whose, because they were all kind of like co-parenting each other's kids together, but not like in a weird way. Right? Like it was just like this very, like everyone loved each other and they paid attention to one another. And I was just struck, like this was a family. But not just that, it was the family. Right? Like the family of God here, right in front of me. And it was so much so that the way that they wanted to live, like these people were devoted to living the Christian life together, which is to say they were actually devoted just to living the Christian life, right? Because the Christian life is a life that has to be lived together. So much so that they all were like, said, hey, we should all move into like the same neighborhood. And so they did. And they called it the Patch, which I loved, right? They're like, oh, let's go back to the Patch. And so usually like Saturday nights after Vespers would be like, we would go to someone's house for dinner, and they would, maybe in the cooler months we would have fires outside, and in the warmer months we would sit inside and all play games, even like the adults and the kids all together. We would play games like Mafia. Anybody ever play Mafia? That was like one of the funnest things to do, especially when you could get some of like the older members of the community to play with you, right? Because you would just like, they would get super into it. They'd be like, I'm not Mafia, I swear I'm not Mafia. And so we were just like playing these games together. And to me, I finally felt like I understood, based on my interactions with these people, what it meant to be a part of a family. Like this is actually what we are made for. This connection with other people. Last night, we traced the contours of our secular age. How we live in human society that says you are your own and you belong to yourself. And we saw that this was puts a lot of anxiety on us, because we each have this pressure to become like our most authentic and best version of ourselves, right? Like we have to actualize all of our deepest potential, and we know that we can never get there, so we keep chasing and chasing and chasing happiness. But all of this chasing happiness is making us miserable, right? This is what we meant by the age of despair. And where I ended last night was with this idea that there's hope, that you actually don't belong to yourself, but that you belong to God. Right? This is where we left off. And in my opinion, I think that if we can lean into this idea that you are not your own, and that you belong to somebody else. This is our evangelistic age. And in order to do this, I mean, again, you cannot just tell people that they belong to God. That is not going to do the trick. Instead, what we need to find is ways that when people think of the people at the church, if they experience what you experienced when I asked you to remember the people who have loved you and supported you and brought you into being through their care for you. Are you with me? We need to give people a felt sense that they are ours and that there's nothing that can come between us and them. Because we are people who serve a God who goes and finds the lost coin, who goes and finds the lost sheep, who's constantly looking for the lost son to come home. Like, this is what we need to give people, this felt sense that they do not belong to an institution, they are not joining an organization, they are not a part of a country club. They are seated at a table with the rest of their family. This is what I think we need to lean into. So, there's a lot that I wanted to say about contestability and disenchantment and all of this today, but I think that that's going to just take me down a very long path that I don't really want to waste our time doing. So if you have any questions about contestability and disenchantment and why I actually don't think that those are like good realms for evangelism, we can talk about that at lunch, or, I know that Father and I are going to do like a speakers engage thing, and maybe, I don't know if there's questions at that point. But anyway, talk to me about it. So, as I said, I think the greatest hope we have to offer is this notion of like belonging to a family and belonging to something outside of yourself, because this is where people actually are dying. Like, this is where they are drowning. This is where we can throw a lifeline. It's where we can meet people. And I really do think, as we look around the world today, I think the church has to be better than society in this regard. And I think the number one witness that we have to offer is relational reconciliation. Man, we are torn apart. If you can look at the news and your heart not be broken in two, like, man, I don't know how we can recover sometimes. But we have to be the ones who are the hope merchants in a time like this, right? Who can say, we can all be in this together. We can love one another. Because the reality of the church is not an institution. It is a multi-generational, multi-ethnic family that was started by Jesus for the sake of partnering with God so that all of creation can be renewed and brought into the family. What a mission we've been given. What a cool thing to be a part of, right? So the church really is fully a story of belonging. And I think that the more we can lean into this idea that the Christian story tells us that the human being, more than we are anything else, is primarily a relational creature. That we are social and relational to our core. From the moment we come out of the womb, we are relational. That is the most fundamental reality of what it means to be human, right? I was even saying this about AI last night, right? AI can now like write plays and poems and do art pieces, and like we thought that was part of what it means to be human, and it's not part of what it means to be human, but we've now seen that computers can do that, right? They can create. But what computers cannot do is relate. They just can't do it. They can't do it the same way that we can. So core to our being is this relationality. It is personhood. And so while I don't think that we can re-enchant the cosmos, I do think that we can re-enchant personhood. I do think that that's where we can start. So I'm going to ask you, what is, and I may have shown my hand here a little bit, what do y'all think the most fundamental need of the human being is? Love and to be loved. Yes, indeed. Connection, love, right? I mean, from the minute that we come out of the womb, it's to be connected to others. Christian psychiatrist Kurt Thompson says it this way, and I love this. He says, we come into this world looking for someone who is looking for us. We come into this world looking for someone who is looking for us. And I love what Father Adam was saying earlier today, right? Of this, like, this notion of seeing and being seen. And like, this is kind of how it's all established, right? Is like, I see you, and not only that, but I see you seeing me. And that is like what kind of gives me existence, right? Like, the only reason I know that I exist right now is because you all are looking at me. If I was up here and like just doing this thing, I'd kind of be like, oh my gosh, am I like Marty McFly at the end of Back to the Future? Like, is my hand disappearing in front of me? Right? And this is actually connected to some of what you were, are you all familiar with Ubuntu? The Zulu philosophy Ubuntu. It's like so it's beautiful. What it actually means, like, the Zulu people are from Africa, and they have this philosophy called Ubuntu, and what it means is I am because we are. And the greeting in Zulu, the way that I'm not even going to try to say it like in their language, so I'm going to like translate it into English here. Instead of saying hello, the Zulu people say, I see you. That's the greeting. I see you. And the response is, here I am. Isn't that so good? I see you. Here I am. And but it's deeper than even just that, right? Like, to say I see you means that I recognize the fullness of your personhood before me. And to say here I am is I exist because you see me. Like, it gives me chills, right? That like we kind of are responsible for co-creating one another by seeing each other into being, by seeing the fullness of who each other actually is. Andy Crouch says it like this. He, in this incredible book that I highly recommend called The Life We're Looking For, Reclaiming Relationship in a Technological World, he says it like this. After an ordinary delivery, after the first few startled cries, newborn infants typically spend an hour or so in a stage doctors call quiet alert. Though they can only focus their vision roughly 8 to 12 inches away, their eyes are wide open. They are searching with an instinct far deeper than intention. They're looking for a face. And when they find one, especially a face that gazes back at them, they fix their eyes on it, having found what they were most urgently looking for. Recognition is the primary task of infancy. Feeding, crying, and even sleeping are just the support systems for this most essential work of figuring out who we are and where we are by making contact with other people, seeing them seeing us, gradually beginning to build our sense of self through their eyes. Isn't that just remarkable? Beautiful, right? We're looking for someone who's looking for us so that we can see one another into being. And what I want to do for just a moment here is I want to give you all a felt sense, again, of just how important and essential this is to the human being. Are you all familiar with the still face experiments? Anyone? Yeah? So if you're not, you're about to be. And it's a little painful. So, but I want you to see just how essential human connection is, even from the moments of our earliest years.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the illusions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby who's about a year of age. And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her. This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, "Come on, why aren't we doing this?" Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions. They turn away. They feel the stress of it. They lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
So they're like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Whew. So again, just check in with yourself real quick. What are you noticing in your body? Stress? Ache? How did it feel when the baby and the mom reconnected? Relief. That's the part that always brings the tears to my eyes, right? Like, oh, like now the tears can kind of come. Anybody else feel the tears kind of come to your eyes at some point? Yeah. Again, that's your connection system coming online because you're not a sociopath. So, well done. Like, this is such a good thing. It means you work, you know? And we all have that in us. Just because we're not that little anymore. Oh, that's Jesus. Just because we're not that little anymore doesn't mean that need goes away. In fact, it actually becomes more and more sophisticated. It grows as we do. We all need still to connect and still to be seen. If you don't believe me, just think for a moment how you feel when you're talking to someone and they pull out their cell phone. Does that feel really good? Aren't you like, this is really fun. I'm really glad we're doing this right now. No, it's like miserable, right? You're just like, oh my, please just put the thing away. The human being needs connection. And this isn't just psychology, right? Like, this is fundamental to our theology, that our God is relationship. A communion of love existing in three eternal persons. And like, as far as we can tell, all they've been doing forever is just like loving one another until they created us. So that they could like love some more stuff and bring that stuff into the fullness of their love too. Like, this is the Christian story, right? I mean, even in Jesus' life, again, we see him constantly in communion with the Father. He's always retreating, going up the mountain to be with his Father. You know, he's not going up there having a Bible study. He's up there traversing the cosmos with his Father, hand in hand, dwelling in his presence. But in a secular age, we forget that we forget that we're persons who are made for relationship. And so I do think that we have this beautiful opportunity in the church to help people encounter persons, to stop being individuals and to start becoming persons together, because personhood emerges as a function of relationship, right? A person becomes a person through other persons. It's just how it works. This is why I think it's also just really beautiful that we recognize that the persons in the church are actually ends in and of themselves. That we don't just use people to get somewhere. We actually come here and we just venerate the person. You ever thought about that? Like, we come here, we kiss all these icons of these people that we love just because we love them. Not to get somewhere, not to get something out of them. I mean, sometimes I think we can probably like have a little bit of a utilitarian relationship with the saints. Like, oh, I lost something, you know, like, please, like, rub my, you know, my lucky talisman of St. Anthony or whatever. But like, these aren't superhumans. These are just humans who like are actually finally human. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't get bit by some like radioactive Jesus and like now like glow with like his powers. You know, like these are people like you and me. They're made of the same substance, but they were connected, man. They were connected to the Lord. They were connected to one another. They had become persons. This is why every icon, no matter what it is always going to have an icon of the face, because the Greek word for face, prosopon, just means person. We have a face. You're never going to just have like an icon of like a saint's torso. That'd be weird. But it's not weird just to see their face, right? Because this is the personhood that the church venerates and looks to. And it's also what the church is trying to instruct us when we do the same things to one another that we do to icons. Right? That we come out and we sense, the priest senses every single icon in the church, the living ones as well. St. Maria Skopsova says the people icons. I love that. The icon people, that's what she says. Icon people. And what else do we do with one another? We greet each other with a kiss, right? We venerate one another. I don't understand it sometimes, I'm blind, right? And we need to recognize too that we're blind. But do you realize right now you are surrounded by 50 images of God? Like, look to your right and to your left really quick and realize that that person is your closest encounter with divinity right now. Like, it should blow our minds, right? Like, we should be falling on our faces all the time in front of one another, venerating each other, honoring one another. Because, man, this is what we were made for. This is also why I think it's so beautiful for us to recognize that, the nimbus, the icon, or like the halo that is around wow, around their heads, right? Like, this is representative of the light of Christ, and it is the same light that shines in every single one of them. So, like, even though their faces maybe look different, the thing that's most true about them is the thing that's true about all of them. The thing that's most true about each of us is the thing that's true about all of us. Isn't that so cool? I love it. And the other thing that I really love about this as well is that if you notice, again, in iconography, there's no shadows. Why? What? Yeah, exactly, because they are the light. And like the sun can't cast its own shadow, right? So to the saints, like there's no shadows because they are just light. This is what Jesus says, right? You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. And so these holy people, they shine with the light of Christ. What we can actually say, and this is where I think sometimes we get into some of the like magical stuff about like people were like, oh, like Saint so-and-so did this like thing. But really, if we look at the iconography and what it's teaching us, it's actually like Christ in Pantaleimon that healed. Right? So we can look at every icon and say, this is actually an icon of Christ with St. Pantaleimon's face. This is an icon of Christ with St. Andrew's face. But it's the same light that shines. And this is where I think that we have to embrace that like personhood is, magical. It is just the most enchanting thing out there, the most awe-inspiring and wonderful reality. In fact, even secular, humanist, atheist psychologists are catching on to this. In his book, Awe, a guy named Dacher Keltner, who I think teaches up at UC Berkeley, he is documenting like the most common sources of awe, right? Like the ways that people experience awe. What do you think number one is? Stars? Nope. What? Religion? Nope. Close. The moral beauty of another human being. The moral beauty of another human being. Think about like that's the number one source of awe. So like, yeah, nature is a place where people experience awe. But in all of his study, like in all the surveys and all the whatever, the number one way that people experience wonder and awe is when they behold moral beauty in another person. Wow. Look at that. And doesn't that really just resonate actually when you think about your experience? Like the times that you've really felt awe is when you're like, wow, that person how did they do that? I mean, even when it's something like, you ever watch people do like really crazy things on like those weird TV shows that are on like in restaurants and stuff, and they're like balancing things on top of their head, or they're like jumping off of, like, humans are amazing. Like we can do such incredible stuff. And what's really particularly amazing to me, again, is that this is just another instance where like science is catching up with the story that the church has always told. They're finally catching up with what we have known intuitively, because in Orthodoxy, the only thing other than like prayers that we do every single day of the church year is tell stories of the moral beauty of other human beings. It's the only thing that we do. There are times when we don't. Oh, I'm going to be going way longer than that. He's giving me the 5. Sorry. We'll see how this goes. Okay. So that's the only thing we do every single day. We're not even allowed to, we don't even read from the New Testament every single day. We can't do baptism. We don't do baptisms every single day. There's times you can't do weddings. There's times you can't serve liturgy. But we are always, always, always reading about the lives of saints. And sometimes it almost feels like those take the primary thing to even some of the feasts. Like even on Pascha, we still read about which saints we're commemorating, right? And it sort of goes in, it sort of feels a little bit to me like, and by the way, Jesus rose from the dead and like had the most decisive victory of all time. But like where we really see that come to life is in his saints. Because this has always been the program. It's always been the program that it be people. And this is why we have to recognize that Christ did not come to establish a religion, but he came to establish a family. A family. This is why we see this word, Adelphi, which means brothers and sisters, show up more than any other single word in the New Testament to describe how Christians are to relate to one another. More than any other word. 343 times. The New Testament writers tell us, brethren, brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters. How does every epistle reading begin in the liturgical life of the church? Adelphi, brothers and sisters. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. This is who you are. Pay attention, brothers and sisters. This is how you are to conduct yourselves. So we see this show up. Really, I think what it looks like for the early church to exemplify what it means to live as a family. Like when we look in the early community of the church, we see that they're doing 4 things over and over and over again. That they are devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching. And here's what we need to recognize about this, right? What they were not doing was debating Trinitarian theology. That came later, but they were not doing that. What were they doing? What was the apostles' teaching? Yeah, let me tell you about a guy I know. They were telling stories about people they loved. Oh, and then there's this one time when he met a woman at a well. Wink, wink. It's like they're not going to say who it was, but everyone knows. He met this woman at a well, and she had been hiding from everybody. She came out at noon because no one was going to be there. And he had the longest conversation with her. And it changed her life. Oh, and let me tell you about another thing he did. You want to hear another thing he did? You ever read St. Mark's gospel? The thing reads like a kid who can't shut up, right? It's like, and then he did this, and then he did this, and then he did that, and then he went here, and then he talked to this person, and then he said this, and then he ate here, and then he went here, and then he ate something else over here, and then he went over to this person's house, and then he ate there. And so he's showing up, eating everywhere, hanging out with people, casting out demons. He does these incredible things. That's the apostles' teaching, is about this person. And so then they go to each other's houses, and they break bread. They eat together on the regular, just having a meal, doing their thing. They're going to the temple. They're devoting themselves to prayer. And then we also see that they share everything in common so that nobody's lacking anything. Again, this is not like a program. This is a family. Yeah.
So the fact that the early Christians met in house churches, I've had house church people tell me that's how we're supposed to worship and not build church buildings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know they say that. I don't know. That's not how we do it. But what we also, I think, need to recognize is, again, that this is a family, right? Like that we absolutely can go gather in the temple. We can do these things. And even the early church was still doing that. They were still meeting regularly in the temple and then going to other people's houses. They went to the temple. They did their Jewish prayer rituals and all of this, because they were still Jews, right? So they still did the thing. And so we still do the thing, but we don't do this other stuff. All we do is that thing. And that's not like a family gathering. It's like a family reunion. Anyone ever been, like family reunions, man, they're kind of a drag, right? Like, because you're kind of like, oh, hey, how's it been since we saw you last? And that's kind of like how it feels sometimes to me when we go to Divine Liturgy. Like, how was your week? You know who I don't ask that question to? My children. I never asked them how their week was. What do I ask them? How was your day? How was your right now? How are you right now? Where are you? What's going on in you? And then they say it. And then we can even ask the next question. Who told you that? Where did you get that idea about who you are and where you belong? You know, like there's so much possibility here. I think it's supposed to be lunchtime. How y'all doing? Do you mind if I keep talking a little bit? Are you still with me? You good? Will somebody please, since we're all family, because this is what families do, they interrupt each other, right? And they say shut up when they're done. So somebody, when you're done, just say shut up. Okay? I welcome it. Good? Cool. We're family. Come on. Let's duke it out. So don't shut up. Okay, I don't even know where I am right now. Breaking each other's home. Yes. So this is the thing that again that I love that Father Adam was saying. Like when we invite people to come and see, what exactly are we wanting them to come and see? You know, what are we hoping our evangelistic tool is? Like our super airtight doctrines? You know, the 2,000 years of history. I've seen this bumper sticker that says Orthodoxy, Christianity, but tougher. And I'm like, I want to like roll my eyes at that because it's weird on a number of levels. Because now all of a sudden you're saying that it's not actually Christianity. Christianity, but tougher. Like we're tougher than Christianity. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense. It's so weird. Yeah, stop it. Or like when we say, look at how, the Orthodox Christianity, 2,000 years old. To me, I'm like, I don't care how old we are. I care about the fact that we're eternal. Who cares where we came from, baby? Let's look at where we're going. We're going to the kingdom. Woo! Amen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, preach. So what is actually going to be the thing that brings people into this family? All of that stuff? I feel like I know a guy who said that there was one thing that we could do, and by that, all people would know that we were his disciples. Why are we making this so freaking hard? You know? Like, he just says it. He came out and said it. And we're like, oh, what program should we come up with? And he's like, there's no program. That's the whole point. There's only persons. Persons in community. He didn't leave a program. He didn't leave a book. He didn't write a single thing down. Right?
No.
Jesus? Oh, come on. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. No, he did write stuff.
He wrote
Am I in the Word, Father? No, you're not. You're out. But I mean, he didn't leave a single program, right? What did he leave? People. A family. He left witnesses. People who could tell the stories of who he was and where he had been and what he had done. Why do we make this so complicated when he told us right out of the gate, love each other? Love each other. Love each other. Love each other. Huh? Oh, I don't know. So, the thing is, this is family life, right? Families don't exist to be an institution. Instead, things happen when you join a family. What you get there is unconditional belonging, right? You can't just like stop being somebody's child. My kids are always going to be my kids, even if they annoy me, right? And they're always going to be one another's sisters. You can't like unsister or unchild somebody. It just doesn't work that way. So this means that even the people that we disagree with are going to be our sisters and brothers, right? And we get so scared about like whether somebody has the same political belief as we do, and like it's just such a polarized world that we live in. Y'all, in the inner circle of Jesus' 12 closest friends, he had a tax collector and a zealot. If he believed that they could figure it out, Republicans and Democrats can figure it out too. Okay? You with me? You can handle crazy Uncle Zeke at Thanksgiving dinner. You can come to Eucharistic table with your right-leaning or left-leaning brother or sister. Love each other, right? This is what we get. And we also get mutual care in a family. Family members look out for each other, not because it's required, but it's just because what a family does. You know, sometimes my kids fight with one another, but if anyone were to hurt one of them, they would defend each other to the death. You know, it's I'm like, well, you guys are so weird. I don't get. Again, only child. I don't understand how siblings work. You know, I'm like, why are you guys fighting over this? I thought this would be great. You could be best friends forever. Like that's what I wanted more than anything was like a live-in best friend. You know, and then they just fight with each other a lot. Anyway, we also have shared stories. That's what I love, right? We may not have as Christians like the same 23andMe reading or anything like that, but what we do have is like generations of stories, the same family history. The whole scriptural narrative is about a family. It starts with a family and it ends with a family. This is the whole story. And of course, natural evangelism, right? When your home is a happy place, what do you want to do? Bring others in. Extend hospitality, right? Hey, why don't you come over for dinner? Hey, why don't you just come hang out with us? Hey, do you want to like play some games? Or hey, you're sitting on your porch and we see your neighbor, what do? Hey neighbor, you want to come have a beer? Right? Like, I mean, it's just normal and natural. Again, we don't have to have like, my family doesn't have an evangelism team. Right? We all invite people over because we love them and we want to be with them. That's really what it comes down to. So I've worked in youth ministry for a very long time. And the question I've heard more than any other question is, of course, this one, right? How do we keep our kids in the church? So I'm going to ask you guys, how do we keep our kids in the church? What?
Well, we can't.
We can't. Okay.
We can love them, though.
We can, thank you. Exactly, because I hope you're seeing that this is actually kind of an absurd question. Because how would we answer this question?
When they're kids or when they're young adults?
But it doesn't matter. Like, how do you answer this question? How do we keep our kids in our family? By loving them. By connecting with them, right? We all look at this statistic of like 60% of young people are going to leave the faith at some point in their lives, and we're like, pulling our hair out about it. And like we think like, oh, why do they do it? Oh, it's because of the secularists and the whatever. We have all these reasons about why the world is to blame. But if we were to ask you the same question, if you had 5 kids and 3 of them, when they turned 18, left your home and never talked to you again, how would you explain that? You did a terrible job. You didn't connect with them. You didn't know them. They didn't feel welcomed in your home. That, right? So now all of a sudden, who's the onus on? Us, right? And again, it's more complicated than that, but we at least need to entertain the possibility that I'm the problem. It's me. Anyone? Yeah, come on, I knew it. Yeah, I knew Father Adam, you were with me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. No. Taylor, no? Any Swifties? Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you, someone.
Please tell me we're not the only two that know that song.
Yeah, I think that'd be a weird turn for sure. So, y'all still with me? Y'all still doing okay? Okay. Done? Time?
How about summarize?
So I'm trying to. This is me trying to summarize. Imagine if you lived in a family or had a church that was like this, where all of these things actually happened. All these one another commandments that we are given in the scriptures, right? Love one another, encourage one another, bear one another's burdens, look out for one another, lay your lives down for one another. Like these are the commandments that we're given of what it means to live in the family of God. And if we could do this, like who wouldn't want to be a part of this family? And now I was going to show you another video, but I'm not going to. So what this means is I think of people that I've met all around the country who are doing incredible things. This is Prez Laura Eliade. She started a cold brew bar at her parish because she was noticing people were leaving because their coffee was terrible. So they would leave the church to go somewhere else to get coffee, and then of course they're not going to come back, right? So coffee hour was dead. They started this, now coffee hour is booming. People are hanging out, they're doing family stuff together. Or I think of my buddy Mike Rasha, who for years and years and years has had this sense that he wants to invite people to be deeper in, like he has people over to his house all the time, and he really has especially a soft spot in his heart for young men who are coming into the church, and he's developing this relationship with them to the point where he can call them out. Like the other day, he was telling me that a group of these dudes were invited to go see a movie with some girls, but it was like a really girly movie, and so they were like, we don't want to go see that chick flick, man. And so then they were over at his house, and he just started he's like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, you're always over here complaining about how no girls like you, and then they invite you to, you see whatever movie they want you to go with to them. What, like, you guys are dummies. And they're like, oh yeah, Mike, we're sorry, yeah, we're right, we should have done. You know what I mean? Like, that is old brother advice, right? That is big brother advice. Like, dude, if a girl wants you to go out with her, you go out with her. You go wherever she wants to go. Who cares? Or I think of the mountain men of, I forget which parish this is, but there's actually a documentary about these guys called Beyond the Peak, right? St. Nicholas, sorry to say, the mountain men of St. Nicholas. And you know, these men went to hike because they wanted to do so in honor of like one of the men whose brother had died, and they went to the top of this mountain and they served a divine liturgy on top of the mountain. Beyond the Peak, check it out. Or I think of what we're trying to do across the Chicago land area, where we're really trying to bring all of these Orthodox churches together who've never been in contact with one another, just for the sake of like having something like a Georgian Supra. Let's get these people around a table together. Let's have them toast to the beautiful and good things in their life. And I think this is why we really need to reclaim hospitality, philoxenia, right, to become who we are. So where I think a lot of this begins is around the table. And this is like the key place that family stuff happens. This is me really trying to wrap this up. I hope you all are still with me, and I appreciate your patience very much. Jesus is constantly at people's houses having food with them all the time. One biblical scholar says in the book of Luke that Jesus is either at a meal, on his way to a meal, or coming from a meal. That's a Jesus I like. Jesus who likes to eat, you know? And at the center of our faith is what? A meal, right? And I think the invitation for all of us is to extend the Eucharistic table out into the world, to bring people to the table. They can't come to that table. That's why we have to become Eucharist for them at our table. In the words of St. Ignatius, right, I am the wheat that is to be ground into the pure bread that is Christ. Ourselves to become the offering by bringing people to our tables. This is not a program, but the question before us is this the kind of family we actually want to be? Now I'm actually done.